All right, you're on.
All right, go ahead and start. All right, thank you all for coming and joining me here today. We're going to talk to you about the 911 system, the history, how it's come about into the United States. We all know it very well. I'm here to tell you a little bit about the 911 system. Bad planning on your part does not constitute an emergency on my part. Proverbs. A quote many of us in emergency services secretly think when we talk to priority 3 patients, but it is the planning of many great men that has created the successful emergency system. As you can see here, we have the first ambulance that has ever been in the United States. It was in the Civil War. It was called a meat wagon. We have modern dispatch. We got old dispatch where Captain Randolph is working. We have some different call boxes that we've used. We don't usually think about the idea of calling 911, how it's changed the world, and it's hard to even imagine what it'd be like without it. In the U.S., we have 195,791 full-time public safety dispatchers working in police stations, dispatch centers, and fire departments, from little towns to big cities. 195,791 people. That is 2/3 the amount of people in Bell County, or roughly the population of Amarillo. Basically, the population of Amarillo is monitoring the phones across the country, waiting to connect to the patient to help. The amazing technology that we have today, this $500 to $1,000 two-way walkie-talkie that we have, can contact the service that be able to get us to exactly where we need to be, and it's really amazing. But to truly appreciate it, you really have to look in the past to see where we came from. On April 12, 1861, the Civil War began with the shelling of Fort Sumter. Soon we started having some serious battles, a huge amount of casualties and wounded. The Union, led by Abraham Lincoln, called for a group of doctors and medical assistants to help out. The early ambulances were called meat wagons. They were called upon to scour the field for wounded soldiers and bring them back to the medical tents. They were basically horse-drawn carriages, as you see. They didn't really have anything else other than a couple of cots. The Spanish had used something like an ambulance before this time, but in my research I found that this is the strong candidate for the first EMS service employed in the United States. After the war ended in 1865, civilian ambulance and fire service became more frequent. Mostly in big towns where a wagon or carriage could quickly trot over to the building where help was needed. Either someone ran over to alert the crew, or a large bell was rung over and over again to alert the crew until they were able to come over to wherever they needed to go. But ambulance services in themselves were kind of infrequent. Most of the small towns used manpower with buckets to put out fires and to help people out. Telegraph was used in some instances to alert emergency services, but it wasn't until Alexander Graham Bell invented the telephone in 1876 that a more efficient way of communicating to emergency services truly arrived. Some larger cities around the world were able to afford the new technology and enable their citizens a faster way to obtain help, but most did not. As you see here, they would install these police phones. It was an old one. This was just a phone. They'd be on patrol out in public, and whenever they needed assistance or if they were calling for another, a truck to come over and round up a bunch of guys, they would just basically call the station. They'd go to where they were. They didn't have dispatch. They just wandered around the streets. In the early 1900s, police began to use radio to dispatch their police officers to scenes. Since two-way radios weren't yet invented, local police still had to use call boxes on the street. And this is it. They would dispatch them out, but they weren't able to call back and say if they're on scene or if they've been able to apprehend anybody. They had to pull over and find a call box. In 1933, a New Jersey police department successfully installed two-way radios in their squad cars. Soon other EMS services followed suit. With the power of the motor vehicle and two-way radios, emergency services were stronger than ever and had a true organization that the public could trust. The system still had problems. In a tragic accident, British fire crews were delayed to a 5-fatality fire. So history was made in 1937 when the first true emergency helpline was established, Britain's 999 system. The system was opened to the public on July 8th. The first call was placed at 4:20 a.m. for a burglary outside a woman's house, and the suspect was successfully apprehended. Other countries adopted the system with great success, but it wasn't until 1968, which is about 30 years later, that President LBJ, with the help of President LBJ, AT&T announced the plans to establish 911 as a universal emergency line at a Washington, D.C. press conference. July 1968, the first official 911 system was established in New York for police only. Soon later, they were able to establish 911 dispatch center to go over to fire department. The first 911 system in Texas started in Odessa, 1970. And as quickly as a city could, they adopted the idea, and soon the entire nation was protected under 911. Fast forward till now, we have hundreds of call services around just the state of Texas, with many, many people that are able to work and be able to take calls from the public. And just as our calls from where we were there, where we just scour the field for people on the battleground, it takes about 10 minutes to call up the call service, and we're there to be able to take care of it. Thank you all for listening to my speech. And
good.
That was brutal.
That's great.
Hey, still being recorded.
No?
Oh.
My
I
shirt.
may have picked it out, but I don't think it's on
Baby gap.
Can you edit